A quick foreword before we get into the video today. This video is intended for newer players with some of the more basic mechanics in Evony. So if you're a veteran of Evony, you've probably already seen this. If you're subscribed to my channel and just clicked on this, you probably already know this. So you're probably not going to watch this video, but don't click off yet. I'm going to ask you to let the video play in the background, and here's the reason why. I think this video does have some useful information for newer players, but when you click off of a video quickly, YouTube sees that and thinks it's a bad video. So when people search for information on skill books, they won't see this video because everyone that already knows it has clicked off of it, and YouTube now thinks this is a bad video and it won't get recommended. So if you would like to help some newer players discover this video, just let it run in the background for a little bit to pump the watch time so YouTube can realize this is not actually a terrible video and is actually something worth watching. Thank you for listening, and now on to Past Me. Hey guys, today we're going to be taking an in-depth look at the skill books in Evony. Mainly what we're going to talk about is just, we're going to cover all the beginner stuff, where to get them, how to apply them, whatnot, what each book does, are they useful or not, and then some recommended combinations for them. Nothing too complex for this video. It's going to be pretty basic and easy to understand. So with that, let's just jump right into it. First, let's cover the skill books, like where to get them. Now, if you're just starting the game and you're wanting to get skill books, there's a couple places you're going to get them. The first and the best place to get the low-level purple books is the Wheel of Fortune. You spin this bad boy a bunch, you'll get these tokens pretty frequently, and look at that, we got some skill books. You're going to get some skill books from there. But say you need some skill books that you specifically need, come to the academy, and you can buy them from the shop here. It's pretty expensive, so you can do it if you want, but you'll burn through a lot of gems if you need a large quantity of them, or any quantity. And then there's events that are going to come along that'll give you skill books, but you'll see those. I know Vikings is a very good one to get a lot of decent skill books. The higher level ones, it's just events pretty much. I don't think there's any way to like actively farm them. But if you have some tips about where to get the higher level skill books, leave a comment below. So with how to get them out of the way, let's look at how to apply them. Now, when applying the skill books, of course, they're going to be these things down here. Now, if you have some high-level skill books that you don't want to use, you don't want to put them on right away. That would generally be a bad idea. Now, let's say we want to put this skill book on here. Now, we still have 3 more slots. So let's say we want to put another skill book on here. 50% chance to replace it, we got lucky. Say we want to put another one on here. 75% chance to replace it. Well, that example's terrible because I just got very lucky. But, okay, let's try that again. So we put on the expensive skill book we want. And then we want to put on some more skill books. 50% chance to replace it. And we got lucky. Finally, there we go. So you can see it overrides one of the other books. And if you keep trying to put on more books, eventually you're going to get it where it is going to it's going to replace this red skill book right here. For some reason, I'm just insanely lucky today. There we go. So yeah, if you put on your skill books just willy-nilly, you're going to override some of the things. The way you're going to want to do this is, first things first, is you're going to want to find out what skill books you want. You have 3 slots, so you're going to need to really think about it. And when we talk about the skill books later, that'll help you with it. But you're going to figure out which skill books you want on them. And once you know which 3, you're going to want to find these purple copies. And you're going to want probably about 10 of each to get a good chance of getting all 3 applied, from my personal experience. But you could get lucky, or you could get really unlucky. Now let's say an Arlian, he's a ground general, we want to throw some ground books on him. We're going to throw these purple books on him. Ground attack, ground defense, ground HP. Got to put ground defense back on because it got overridden. And now we have 3 purple books on here. Now, once you have your 3 purple books, the ones that you want on it, you can upgrade these books to the higher levels. So let's say we want to put a ground troop attack on here. Oh, I messed it up. Okay, whatever. Let's say we want to put our ground troop defense on here. Put our ground troop defense on here. It replaces the ground troop defense. Now let's say we put our mounted troop defense on here. It replaces the mounted troop defense. And then we want to put our ground troop HP on here. It replaces that, and we have a full set of nice high-level skill books. So that's how you're going to want to apply the skill books. Now let's talk about which skill books you're going to want to use. Now, the first thing you're going to consider when talking about skill books is the compatibility. So a lot of generals have issues with the compatibility with other generals. So when you use a assistant general, the skill books can disable their abilities. A good way to check this is with your wall. If you go to your wall, you can put on the general you want to check. Let's say Roland. And we want to see if Lee Namosa is compatible with him. If this is highlighted, it's colored in, that means they're compatible. The books that are compatible also will be colored in. So since we see that all of these are colored in, we know that all of these are working and they are all functional. However, let's say that we put a mounted attack book on Roland. So we have a mounted troop attack book on Roland. And then we check Lee Namosa. Oh, look at that. It's disabled now. And it'll say that the skill is disabled by the level 3 mounted book. Sometimes this message will say that it's disabled by whatever their main skill is, even though it is being disabled by the book, so do be aware of that. So what I'm saying is, before you put the skill books on it, you want to know who your assistant is going to be for that general so you can plan out how you want to put these books on them so as not to waste copies. Now, let's take a look at the specific skill books. We have 3 basic categories when looking at skill books. Subordinate city, development, military, and then there's a 4th version. I'm not sure why it's not showing up here. I guess my game is outdated. Special. Special skill books are for debuffs. With the debuff skill books, they're a little bit harder to get. You're not going to find them in the tavern or in the shop. Pretty much only event, or if you want to spend a lot of money. Those books, I would pretty much recommend putting them on your subordinate city generals or in one niche situation. But for the most part, those should just go on your subordinate city generals. Talking about subordinate city skill books, they break into 2 categories. Ones that help your actual city and ones that help you with your combat. We have construction, improves your construction speed in the city. It's a pretty great book. Gold production, increases your gold production by 45%. It's a great book. Increases troop training capacity and increases troop training speed. Very good books as well. These 4 are pretty much the cornerstone of what you want for your mayors. And they kind of break into 2 different things. These ones are going to help your sub-city development, and these 2 are going to help your sub-city troops. Now, they'll help you train your troops faster and train more of them, but with sub-city troops, they're not a very hard-hitting impact on the battlefield, so you might wonder why we would be worried about how fast they can train and stuff. Well, the reason for that is you need at least 1 sub-city troop to have the mayor apply their debuffs, whether you're attacking or defending. For those debuffs to apply, there has to be at least 1 sub-city troop. So with a faster training speed, more training capacity, you're going to have more troops in there. They'll come back faster, and you'll lose those troops to 0 more often, and you can keep your mayors in the fight. I know that some people like to have 2 different sets of mayor for this. the gold and construction, the development ones that stay on the subcity most of the time, and then the training ones that go on it when you need to train a lot of troops back up because you've lost them all. So those are the two categories for that. And then we also have some other ones. Rebirth increases the death to survival rate by 5%. This one kind of goes in with the training speed ones. It'll help you keep your troops alive for longer. This one would be a good one to have on the generals that are actively debuffing, that are going to be on the city when you're in combat. That's what this one is geared towards. You could pair this with some of the debuff skill books, but it will be harder to get a lot of the debuff skill books, so getting multiple rebirth and multiple debuff skill books to stick might be a little bit tricky. So those are the basic skill books that you're going to want to put on your mayors. Looking at the development tab, these are going to go on generals that you're going to use for farming, hunting monsters, and whatnot. Honestly, all of these are pretty solid. They're a little bit more rare to get than the other ones, so... Well, no, these ones aren't. The gathering speed ones are pretty common, and they're pretty self-explanatory. The ones that are a little bit more rare is... I think I have a few of them. These books, these are the ones that are a little bit more rare. I didn't even have any in my, just laying around. I'm not sure why they drop much less than the others. I do know that when I first started playing like a year ago, I found a lot more than I do now. So, for whatever reason, if you have a lot of them, don't think that it's going to stay that way because they might decrease. I'm not sure why they're more rare, at least in my case, but they are. Now, these ones are the ones that bring back extra food. Extra food, extra iron, coal, wood, and whatnot. Basically, all these are going to do is if you bring back 10 million of a resource, 20% bonus, you're going to end back bringing 12 million instead. So it's a very nice book, very good for your development generals. So do be careful with those. But yeah, we have those. We have the ones that increase the gathering speed. That's all pretty self-explanatory. We have the luck book, which increases the double drop rate, which if you have a general that's primarily for hunting monsters or a monster hunting assistant, you're definitely going to want to put this book on them. But do be careful because a lot of generals will disable this book, specifically the monster hunting ones. So do watch out for that. This type of book right here, the ones that increase the troop load, honestly, I think they're not very useful. At a certain point in the game, your marches are going to be more than large enough to carry back all the food you want, and the resource spots are going to be just fully maxed out. The only use case for this is if you have one specific general you want to camp in the Alliance mine for days at a time, and you want to be able to carry more food on that march. They could use this book to get a little bit of use, but that's pretty much the only use case for the troop load. Monster march speed, 45% march towards monsters. This one only applies marching to the monsters. So this is good for your monster hunting generals. A lot of people like this book. Save you some speed ups on your marches, kill stuff faster. Of course, you have your attack against monsters, defense against monsters, and HP against monsters. General rule of thumb, attack against monsters is going to be the most important, because when you're hunting monsters, if you one-shot them, you take no casualties, so you want to get your attack increased as much as possible. But if you have extra skill book slots, you do have these other two, which are pretty nice. This book right here, Monster Respect, offers an extra 20% XP from killing monsters when generals leading the army. One of the most worthless books in the game, honestly. because when you're leveling generals, you're not going to be doing it by killing monsters. You're going to be doing it by farming sub-cities. So the minuscule amount of extra XP you're going to get from this from killing monsters isn't really going to matter for your general. So it's just kind of a waste of a skill book slot. Okay, that's it for the development books. Let's take a look at the military books. March speed. March speed is a pretty nice one. This will increase your march speed no matter what the march is. If I remember correctly, it does stack with the monster march speed, so you don't have to worry about that. The use case for this, it's not a great book, but it's not a terrible book. It's just convenience, and it might give you a slight edge in battle. I tend to put it on my PvP generals just because it does make your marching speed a little bit faster. So it does decrease the time it takes your troops to get from your city to their city, so you can snipe them a little bit faster. So it will give you an edge in there, but it's not a huge edge. This one is very, very important, and definitely it should go on all of your monster hunting PvP generals. March size. Increases your march size. Extra troops in the fight, never hurt anybody. It's a very good book. Be aware of compatibility issues with it. I generally like to put it on my assistants instead of on my main general, because maybe I want to put on a general that has conflicting march size skill book as an assistant. So if I have that on my main general, it's going to block them. So I just tend to keep it on my assistants. Basic HP, defense books, and attack books. Just general, they're good to have around the block. These two books, very important right here. Ground troop speed and ground troop speed. They do not work. They are completely not non-functional in the game. They, I don't know why. It's a bug. It's a intended feature, but they won't give you any return. And it's been debunked and disproven a lot that they don't work. So you can look into that, but I'm not going to talk about that because that's not my area of expertise. Range bonus for the siege and the range troops. They're good books. Extra range means you're just going to get more attacks in before they can hit you. There are certain niche situations where you could use them or not use them, depending on specific situations, to manipulate the turn orders. But for the most part, they're just good books all around. This book right here, Senior Renacine, reduces the general's imprisonment time and reviving time by 50%. Not a very good book. I definitely would not recommend it. Number one, because the revival time on generals anyways is pretty crazy, and if you get zeroed, you're going to have like 5+ generals to revive, so you're just cutting a revive time down from like 5 days to 2.5 days, so it's still a crazy amount of time to revive them. You're just going to end up using revival stones. It's only 1,000 gems, so it's kind of a waste of a skill book slot. I wouldn't recommend it. Okay, with an overview of where to get the books, how to put the books on, what the books basically do, let's look at combinations for the books. We're going to use as an example my ground generals. Now, I have Trajan as my main ground general, and I have two uses for him. The first use is for attacking, and the second use is for defense on the wall, because he does have the leading clause, so he can be used as a defensive general. For skill books, I have ground troop attack, ground troop defense, ground troop HP. These three books are going to be your bread and butter for any PvP general. Attack, HP, and defense for whatever the relevant troop type is. Now, you can change whichever three books you put on the main general, but you're going to want these three books on at least the main or the assistant, as long as they are compatible. So we have those three books. Let's look at my assistant for them. Oh yeah, my game client is outdated. That's not such it. That's King Arthur right there. Okay, but such it is my assistant for the attacking march. Now, the books I have on him March speed gives me a little bit more time to get to the enemy march, and then march size. These two books are the ones that I would consider to be required. For any attacking march, you're going to want attack, defense, HP, march size. Those four are definitely required. March speed is highly recommended. And then with the last slot, it doesn't really matter what book you put in that slot. The niche case I said for debuffed books earlier, if you want to put a debuff book on here, that would be a good spot to put it. It's just a free spot. You can buff a different troop type. I just buff mounted HP because sometimes I do send a little bit of mounted troops with it. It does make my mounted layers a little bit more survivable, but you can put pretty much any book here and be fine. It's not really a required slot, I would say. I wouldn't recommend putting ground troop speed or mounted troop speed because it doesn't do anything. But yeah, it's pretty much just there. If they are a ranged or a siege general, however, you probably do want the ranged range and siege range book here instead. So that would be a good one. But do keep in mind with where you put the books, it is going to affect the compatibility of generals. For the most part, your attack book is going to be what disables most other generals. March size will also disable them, but not as much. So purely optimal setup would probably be defense, HP, and then march speed on your main general, just so that you have absolutely no worries about compatibility issues with your skill books. And then the other books you can put on your assistant. Now let's look at Sween Forkbeard. He's my second ground assistant because, as I said, I do use Trajan on the wall. So Forkbeard is the wall assistant for him. Skill books I have on him are a little bit different. I don't need a march size book because it's going to be for defending. I don't need a march speed book because, well, we're not marching anywhere. We're staying in the castle. So I basically have 3 free slots for whatever books I want to put there. The books I chose to put here is ranged range, ranged attack, and mounted troop attack. Here's the reason for this. The ranged range and attack is because since my keep is very ground heavy, that means I'm vulnerable to a mounted march. So I do want to try and cover the ranged troop buffs a little bit to help counter that. It's not going to be a huge difference, but it is there. And then the mounted troop attack book, I don't remember why I put this book on there, honestly. It's just a free slot. So yeah. Okay, I think that pretty much covers everything you would ever need to know about skill books. If I missed anything, leave a comment down below. But yeah, I hope y'all found this video informative, and don't forget to subscribe.